Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really pretty card. This actually is a card that I saw Patty Bennett make. It's a beautiful idea. So I just switched it around a tiny bit and created another version of it. This actually uses a couple different things. So we're actually using the seashell, ooh, that was a mouthful, 3D embossing folder. Okay, so you want to remember when you're embossing things, you want to emboss, if you want it to stand up, that is going to be, the Stampin' Up needs to be facing up. So we're going to emboss a piece of Night of Navy. I actually cut this down because I did the first version full size and then trimmed it down, and I really had a hard time deciding where I wanted to cut from, so I actually cut this down. So this is 3 3/4 by 5. So what you're going to do is you're going to center this in your folder kind of the way you want it, so just like that. So I am still using a Big Shot. Okay, so if you're using a Big Shot, you actually need to have the blue plate. I always call it the blue plate special. I am sure you can purchase this somewhere from Sizzix, who is the creator of the Big Shot. I'm assuming so, but we do not carry the Big Shot any longer. So if you cannot find this, you probably would have to kind of work on your own sandwich. But when you're using the 3D embossing folders, you definitely need just this platform. Pardon my cough. So when you finish, you'll see you get this beautiful, really raised image. It's very, very pretty. Okay, so we're going to use that. A lot of the stuff I did ahead of time just to make it simpler. You totally could use any of these sentiments for this today, so really just depends on what you want to do. On my sample, I used Just a Note, and that actually comes from the Happy Labels dies right down here, Just a Note. So I may use that one, or I may switch it up. I'm really not 100% sure yet. It's a lot of great sentiments, and the friends are like seashells, and I also think the Thank You for Everything would work pretty nicely, so I might use that one. Yeah, maybe I might use Friends Like Seashell. Who knows? I'm not sure where we're going to go with that. So I'm just going to set this aside for just a moment. So this is going to need time to dry. So we're going to actually work on this first. So Patty actually used this. These are the Pearlized Enamel Effects Basics. This is the Pearlized White. It's really, really pretty. And what you're going to do is just grab yourself a piece of acetate. And one of the smaller blending brushes works really well. Now, I have done this numerous times, and afterwards I've cleaned out my brush, and you can see it's still super soft. I just put a little bit of dish or hand soap. I really scrubbed it in, rinsed it, and let it sit. One thing I will say is if you let it sit and it fully dries and you haven't touched it in a few days, it is rather hard, which this one was really hard, but once you flick the bristles a little bit, it completely softens up to like it used to be. So I'm going to just put a good swirl of this down, and I'm going to keep this on the side because, as you can see, when I was finished, I did go back and add some little dots, but you definitely want to do that when your card is completely done. So I'm going to just take my brush and just pick up some of that, I don't know if you call this ink or whatever it is, but you're going to pick that up. And I've reused this piece numerous times, and then you're just going to very lightly just brush this over the places where you want shimmer. It is really, really pretty in person. I know when she said that on her video that she did, she was saying that it really doesn't feel like it showed up quite as well, and you do need a little bit more than you think you would, but it really is a beautiful effect because it just hits all those raised portions on your embossed piece. And I apologize, my washing machine is running in the distance there. I'm sure that's rather loud, but it's really pretty. So this just needs to set and dry for a little bit. I'm going to just go over this while I'm at it, just to give it like an all over shimmer. So I'm going to set that on the side for now. So when I'm finished, what I will do is a little bit of dish soap, rinse it out. I've also used this actually with the black, and if you can see that tiny, tiny dot there, that's about all that didn't come out. So it does still come out fairly well with using the darker colors. I'm not sure how the red would do, but I imagine if you did rinse it out fairly quickly afterwards, you probably wouldn't have much of a problem. Let me just close this door. Give me 1 second. have one of those high-powered washing machines that kind of sometimes really gets just a little like extra loud. So this card is fairly simple. I did die cut the circle. This is the second largest stitched circle from the Stylish Shapes dies. Sorry, the dog walked in and reopened the door. But most of the rest of this is pretty easy. We're actually going to take dies and we're going to die cut the crab. And you can either use a piece of Post-it tape, you can use washi tape. Washi tape works really, really well also. And I'm going to just die cut. So I have birds, the crab. I'm going to try to die cut as much of this as possible. Just going to set this over here. There are those two. And then I'm going to die cut one of... You probably could do one of these if you wanted to do, I'm not going to do it all in one. You're going to die cut one of the Nautilus shells, which I'm not seeing right now. And I want to die cut one of these longer conch shells. I feel like I must have gotten all those out of here that I could. So I'm going to grab a different piece of paper. So this is actually the By the Sea specialty paper. And the nice part is, it does have some gold accents on the other side, but I really love the shells. So I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to just put this here and one more right over here. Now the nice part about this Post-it note tape is you can use it over and over and over again. It's really super versatile. Can use it for multiple cuts. Actually, I think probably once you cut it once, I feel like it almost gets better. So I'm going to put my top plate and I'm going to just run this through the Big Shot. Okay. And just going to pull these out. And then I want to grab my scrap piece. So you can see, you can definitely get a lot of cards out of this. And it's also a really easy way if you are really having a day and you're just not into stamping. It definitely is very helpful. So then what we're going to do, where's my little piece here, is I'm going to take these 4 items. I'm going to take a sponge dauber and some Sahara sand ink, and I'm just ever so slightly going to just slightly color the sides. Okay, right here. So really this kind of makes it look like you've done something even though you really didn't do a lot to it. So it's like stamping, but easy. Or maybe if you're a beginner or you just don't have a lot of time to do something, really makes it look nice. You could also do that to the circle if you wanted to, but we're going to skip that because I think it was nice just as is. Now the only other thing I was saying is I want to do my sentiment, and I wasn't quite sure which one I wanted to do, but I feel like I'm going to do the Friends Are Like Seashells, because I do really like that one. Might need a bigger piece, here we go, of paper. Okay. And I want to grab a block and my navy ink. And this is definitely going to obviously increase the size that we're going to use for this. And I'm just stamping to the side because I'm really not sure how big I want to use that. That looks pretty good. Okay. And let's see. see if this looks. Sir, hey, be quiet. That's probably going to cut into it. So you know what? I'm probably going to just end up doing this by hand, which is fine. So I'm going to grab my scissors, straight along. And then what I usually do is I kind of try, well, I want to make sure that this is to the edge since we're doing it that way. Okay, so I try to find a middle spot, kind of like so, and then I will snip. Sometimes it's better if you actually use paper snips instead of larger scissors because you get a little bit nicer of a cut. Oh heavens. Okay, that looks good. Since this is not stitched, I actually am going to go in with just whatever ink is left on here and just sponge the edges a little bit. Grab just a little bit more. Whoops. My scraps are jumping. I feel like I try to be a little bit lighter on the edges, but then on the ends, just kind of heavy it up a little bit. Okay, so that looks good. All right. So now all we have to do is put this together. Now this is probably, I'll say, it's not difficult, but it's the most part where you're going to need to make a decision because some of the people in Stamp Club kind of like, how many dimensionals? Do I put it here? Do I put it there? So really it's just up to you. But it's fairly simple with the layering. So I'm going to go ahead and crease this. And we have a piece of Petal Pink, 4 by 5 1/4. Stick this down. This is going to need a little bit more glue because of the 3D embossing, just so you can really get some of it into the groove, because you don't want your card to fall apart. So definitely make sure you have a good amount of glue here. Again, that one's 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, I did put this up one dimensional, so let me just grab my dimensionals. I took all of them to the party the other day, so I think I just have not unpacked all my white dimensionals yet, but it's fine. Okay, so I'm going to use the big outer pieces. Now this is a much larger sentiment. So that is one thing you want to be mindful of. So I was going with water, sand, or sorry, horizon, sand, water. So that's why I have it this way. There's a couple different pieces in there, so you could certainly change it around if you wanted to. And also my sentiment is kind of going the other direction. So I'm actually going to put some dimensionals under this to pop it back up. And then what I'll do is glue the other part. So this will have a dimensional. I'll probably put a little piece here and then glue on the bottom. I need just a little more over here. But just for something kind of to change it up a little bit. So that. And then we have the bird. The bird is going to need a little bit of dimension underneath of the behind. The rest we'll put glue. Oops. Just like so. We have our crab, which we can put him over here. Put the seashell on this side, so the crab is going to need just a little bit under the far end, because you don't want it to look droopy in areas. That is what we're trying to avoid. So if you can see now, that's popped up a little bit better. We can keep our shell down here and maybe put the nautilus up here. Yeah, and then shell down at the bottom. Maybe cut this one just a little bit too big. Yeah, I'm going to trim just a teeny bit. Put him over here. So I'm going to start with him because he's kind of down here removed. Bird will be next, and then I'm going to put some glue on the head. Okay, crab. Sounds like a tuberculosis ward in this house still. Rainbow Stamper had strep and was kind enough to pass it along. And there. And then this. I'm going to take this off. But thankfully he's on the mend. He's completely finished his antibiotics, so we're all good. Give that a little press. Now, this little piece, what I actually did was I just added this to the inside and just put a little bit something down here just so it look a little kind of decorative. Plus, you'll always end up with these little pieces that I really feel bad throwing away. So I usually kind of place it, flip it over, line it up, and then give it like a final press. So there you go. Now we have one other thing we have to add, and that is actually two things. These really pretty flat adhesive back pearls. So kind of depends on how many you want to use. I don't tend to like to put too many because we're also going to put those little dots, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so we have those three. Triangles usually work best when you're placing those kind of things. Then these are really cute too because they're flat. They're not super raised. Now, when you are completely and finally finished your card, I do believe I put a little bit of Wink of Stella on the bird's belly. Oh, I wanted to show you one other thing I did. I just remembered. Okay, one other thing I did. So I took these dots. You just want to make sure that you're nice and pointed. And I kind of put little dots. But you have to make sure it's dry. So you got to do this last so you can set it to the side. You can do them on the little dots that are on there. You can do them randomly because there are little embossed dots randomly on your card. The other thing I did, and you may or may not be able to see this, but I actually put a tiny little black dot, which is this, on his eye, just so it would stick out just like a teeny hair. You just have to be careful when you do it, especially if you've already put your other, there you go, your other dots on. So really adorable card. I hope you guys like this. I hope you'll give it a try. This is definitely fun to use the blending brushes with that. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are. If you'd like to get any of the supplies to make these cards and more, you can go to my online store, rachthestamper.stampinup.net. If you want to check out my blog, you can get all the instructions on how to make this card, all the projects, everything that you need. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.